Earth debate live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a Ko-Fi, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and X. And we are joined by Central Goat, Neil, Duncan, and a whole bunch of people in the Flat Earth Debate Discord server. So welcome one and all.
Hello, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. As I was scrolling through Skype today to see which video we may potentially cover, one of them that came up, I played for about 2 or 3 minutes, and it seemed like an AI-generated Flat Earth video. It seemed really weird in terms of how it was narrated, and in recent months, YouTube have asked me as a creator to disclaim if the material that I'm presenting is produced or representative of AI material. Now, at the time, I was like, I wonder why they're asking me that. Is it because I potentially could have written the script with AI, or what is it? And then when you come across a video like that, when you're like, wow, this is literally some lazy creators typed in a couple of concepts into a AI bot, and then with the script told it to make video that goes with it, and the end product gets put on YouTube and presumably does quite well, to the point where they have to disclaim it now, that it's predominantly produced by AI. So, weird time that we live in. Anyway, we won't be covering that video. I'll show you what it is. I mean, I could be wrong about it. It could just be the way it seemed to me. This Rufus Reddit thing. But, yeah, I mean, it's got more subscribers than I have, and it looked legit. It's to backing game footage that doesn't seem to match the words that are being spoken. It kind of makes no sense to me, but that's not what we're covering today anyway. We'll be covering this. So this is a pilot, as we've on a bit of a pilot vibe at the moment. Character health? Is that what it's called? Why is he covering pilots? Okay. Anyway, we'll get to that in a minute once we've done a few housekeeping questions. Unless there's anything pressing, I normally launch into these intros to live shows without actually asking if there's anything pressing that I should be covering or looking at today. Is there?
Nothing that I can think of.
Just this pilot. So yesterday we were covering Angels of Light. Is that his name? Angels of Light? What's he called?
I call him Angels,
of
but
Light.
I don't know his full name.
Angel.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Don't want to get it
Angels
wrong,
of
because
Light.
he's got various, presumably Twitter and TikTok and YouTube accounts attached to that name, right? In any event, he's been out on the circuit putting the pitch data to pilots themselves, according to them. Now, Brian had a few words of caution in terms of, is this guy actually a pilot? You know, it doesn't necessarily strike me as anything suspicious, but Brian's a lot more on the nerve of these things than I am, and he had a word of caution to establish if the guy is actually just a bullshitter or an actual pilot, because so many of the people who claim to be aren't. He referenced my wife, who's like, Nathan's wife's got a pilot's license. I'm like, no, she hasn't. She's flown planes and helicopters and stuff, but she doesn't hold a license. And Brian was like, oh, right, okay. But she answered the questions that I asked her correctly because she had flight experience. And I was like, yeah, I can't actually remember what the questions that he put to her were years ago. She's got better memory than I, because I don't. I remembered it after he reminded me. But anyway, the point being that she answered certain questions that Brian had about her flight experience correctly. And in a couple of instances, not us, not Brian, but Brian's counterparts on the Globe Earth side, who are pilots, have tried to trip up some of these pretenders and asked them certain questions that they'd only know the answer to if they did actually have flight experience, like my wife did in the example I'm making. In spite of her not holding a license, I want to make that absolutely clear, because I know in the past there's people who've kicked up fuss because people have claimed to hold licenses that they don't. In this case, pilots. So for that reason, I was a bit, taken aback when Brian was giving them those words of caution, because Angels was like, well, he seems like a pilot to me. And you're like, well, of course he did, otherwise you wouldn't be talking in those contexts with him, unless you did. If you had any suspicion, you wouldn't be talking to him. But, Brian's a lot more well-versed in these things. I'm not suggesting that the guy that was up yesterday isn't a pilot. We don't know either way. We're just going, like I say, by past experience, where there has been lots of bullshitters, to say the least. Some on our own side. So, yeah, a word of caution maybe to Angels. But either way, there's been certain pilot responses, and one of which was himself yesterday with a load of straw men, as I understand it. Who is it that told me about it? Was it you, Flat Earth Ranger?
No, I actually told you that, and it was posted yesterday, 11:09 a.m. It's still on a Skype.
His responses?
Yeah, pilot's response to Angel's video.
Did we cover it yesterday, or was it after we finished?
No, we didn't. No, it was after the show. So
okay,
it's a good idea to cover it right now.
Should we not cover that first? I don't see it. Let's just have a look.
Sure. It was from yesterday, 11:09 a.m. It's still on a Skype. I just saw it. Or if you don't see it, I can repost it.
Oh, yeah, it's because you're saying it's 16:09 for me. It's just, yeah. Okay, yeah, let's have a look at this. It says pilot strawman response to Angel's vid, yeah?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, let's have a look at this.
To look at different emergency landing flight paths.
Oh, what's going on with this?
On the globe model, they all make perfect sense.
No audio from it.
Hey there, airline pilot. I fly the 777 and almost exclusively.
Just incredibly quiet for some unknown reason. See if I can sort that out. Give me a sec.
Exclusively cross the Atlantic Ocean, so I think I could offer some input here.
Logically, you would think the fastest and quickest route would be to fly from the bottom of Portugal straight to New York.
Well, right off.
Sorry, right off the bat, why is it that you are, number one, incredibly quiet, and you've taken the audio from someone else who is also incredibly quiet and made her quieter compared to you, who's already quiet? I don't get it. This has nothing to do with what Angels put to him.
Right off the bat, your first major flaw is you're using a 2D map that you'd see in like a kindergarten class. This is
right, 2D map. Sorry, did you think that maps are 3D?
Map?
Go on, Mush.
I said as opposed to what? 3D map?
Yeah, as opposed to what? There are no non-2D maps. When you present a globe in representation in a 3D generated CGI model, it has no reference to the linear distances on the flat map that you zoom into. So it's not really... Again, what's this got to do with Angels, if this is an Angels response?
This is not an accurate way to navigate. Let's show you what the professionals use. If we were to draw a straight line from Lisbon, Portugal to John F. Kennedy.
Well, it's not a straight line if we were to take it that this 3D rendered sphere has the line drawn on it. It wouldn't be a straight line anymore. Meanwhile, the distances that you're going to now give are linear. So, if you draw out the actual profile of this line that you've said is straight and isn't on the 3D representation, you can represent how it's measured with respect to a horizontal plane. That is to say, the elevation profile in Google Earth, if that's what this is, will still give you a line that's detailing how high or low the topography is with respect to a horizontal plane of reference at zero, sea level. Meanwhile, distances are all linear. Miles are straight. They're flat distances.
The shortest distance is actually slightly north of a direct...
North? What do you mean north? You don't have north on a ball. You have north on a flat map. These are flat directions. You can't use north. You can't use miles. You can't use flat straight distances. Just because you've got a picture of none of the above doesn't mean that any of what you're referencing is anything other than what I've just suggested. Flat, linear, straight distances on flat 2D maps with respect to sea level. Because that's how the world is represented, flat. That's how it's measured, flat. That's how you're detailing it when you talk about north. North with respect to a plane, yeah, the globe doesn't have that.
line that you would draw on such, say, a flat map.
because the emergency landing landed in Canada at the St. John's Airport.
On a chart that professional pilots use to navigate, St. John is right there on the way.
This is a flat Earth map, so the Lisbon Airport would be right about here.
They're all flat. When you say your chart, you've got like Google Earth with a projection then. So it's not going to have an elevation profile in it. But the distances are linear and straight, and the heights are with respect to sea level. Elevation profiles, like in the pitch data. I thought this was a response to that. Am I missing something?
St. John's would be right about here.
Ironically enough, with this flat Earth map, North America...
Not a flat Earth map. So the majority of the charts and maps that are currently used are globe projections. Predominantly Mercator-based globe projections. But they're utilising a flat square grid so that you can use circles of equal elevation on them. That's how they functionally operate. But the origin of those grid systems are Polaris based in the north, circles of equal elevation. Latitude. Right, latitude and longitude, that's what the grid is. So they're all flat, functionally. In terms of how they have their origins in globe projections, like the one that you just used, based on Haversine conversions, utilising the same exact grid to project those points from hell, equatorial plane being the basis. But your plane, it's flying with principles that have its nose up with respect to horizontal, and we have the data to prove that as pitch data. None of this is relevant. How the charts and maps work, who cares? They're all flat.
and Europe actually line up very close. But that's about where the similarities end. If you ever want to wake up flat earthers' parents, bring up flight routes in the southern hemisphere, and they will scream so...
Right, Hemi, what now? Hemi begging the question, Polaris derivation-based celestial sphere-based sphere? Because in your navigation system, you're utilising only one sphere, celestial. That's how you utilise the stars to give you your charts and maps. But you're using that word, hemisphere, like it has some bearing to the ground? Well, maybe on your 3D projected image or Haversine conversions to put projected points onto a spherical surface representing the protractor at the equatorial plane. But these aren't any bearing on the actual utilised maps that you will use. They're all flat. Dropping this word hemisphere in, unless you're referencing the celestial hemisphere, that's a flat plane reference system though. Same as the latitude and longitude grids on your maps.
so loud from their parents' basement, I guarantee you.
Why is the ad humming about being in my parents' basement? I've got 2 kids. I'm a flat earther. Married. Got responsibilities. I'm not in my parents' basement. Why are you stereotyping us with an ad hum? Why?
Wake them up. In my experience,
Did the woman who's responding to you look like she was in a basement with her parents above her? What's he talking about?
flat earthers have zero argument when it...
Sorry, zero argument? Correct me if I'm wrong, this gentleman has had the pitch data given to him, is that correct? By angels. We saw it, I know that's the case. You've had pitch data. You didn't even
Technically,
know
it's
what...
not an argument. He's just stating facts.
Yeah. Earth is measured flat. You fly with respect to the horizontal plane of reference. You'll call it sea level, and how high you are above it, and how high your nose is with respect to that plane. 2 degrees, you said, above. That's why Brian's suspicious of you. Because on a commercial flight, which it looks like you're putting behind you, in what could be a costume with a CGI rendering of other pilots, because you're definitely not sat in this scenario doing it, you've just pasted yourself on top of it. But 2 degrees seems too low. Brian said it should be higher. I wouldn't have known that. But it's enough for him to suspect that you're a bullshitter as opposed to a pilot. Furthermore, you didn't know what rigidity in space was. I made apologetics and said you're not an engineer, you're a pilot. Brian again pricked his ears up, and there was one other thing that I can't remember that made Brian put a word of caution to angels based on this guy might be just lying. Gone out and bought a costume, maybe?
It comes to flights, say, from Sydney, Australia to Santiago, Chile.
What's this? What was that grid on it? That's an azimuthal equidistant globe projection based on the derivation of the areas of equal elevation we utilise in latitude and longitude grids, projected from the Polaris-centric system. So therefore, the projection itself, azimuthal in nature, is projected from Polaris also. So what? That's not a flat Earth map. It's distorted all over the place with globe horribleness in the interim of becoming a flat map. Like all of them, they're all globe projections. but they all have their same origins in flat Earth measurements of the stars, angles of elevation.
This creates all kinds of problems with their model, especially...
Sorry, their model. I've just explained how it isn't our model. It's a globe projection. Azimuthal, equidistant, polaris-centric globe projection. That's the map that you just showed. Why are you lying? Is it just ignorance that makes you think that globe projections are our model? They're not.
He's going for
Do you
the
wanna-
anti-flat earth, the greatest hits.
Yeah. Why not just straw man flat earthers with rhetoric that undermines your own principles? If this is a failed quote-unquote model according to you, Mr. Pilot, then it's a failed globe projection. Okay? So your globe projection fails. Oh, you don't want to take ownership as a globe projection, even though that's what it is. Where did the lines of latitude come from on that globe projection? Or from flat Earth elevation angles. That's where all of the maps originate. That's why they're all flat. So they can continue to work with those angles of elevation to the stars. Earth is flat. That's how it's measured. That's what developed these maps, to give you the ability to project globes to fantasize about being on. When you strawman flat earthers with their globe projections, figure out what you're arguing for, my friend, because you're arguing against your own quote-unquote model. It's not. It's an azimuthal equidistant polaris-centric globe projection.
comes to flights.
Pilot training manuals, all train manuals, they all say to assume that the Earth is flat and
Yeah, we've got the documentation to prove it, pitch data. It's not that they need to assume it. If they didn't, they'd crash into a ground where they assumed a void was opening up ahead of them. It isn't. And the pitch data proves that. They're trained to fly straight and level. This man himself said those words in the last video that we covered.
not moving.
I'm sorry, but what the actual are you talking about?
Who's your company? Who do you fly for? What the actual swear word with a bleep over it are you talking about? Who do you represent? Who are you a pilot for? I'd like to write them a little letter to say, why is this fat twerp swearing when he represents you? I think you're a bullshit. I don't think you are a pilot. You're risking your career by swearing at flat earthers on YouTube or TikTok. Are you, my friend? Really? You're risking your, what, 200 grand a year job to get the better of some flat earther by swearing at her, poisoning the well and calling her stupid, stereotyping a whole group of people? I don't think the company that you work for, if you did, would like that.
Not to
I've been
mention,
a pilot
if he is a pilot, he's actually a dangerous pilot, because if he doesn't know to keep the pitch above the horizon, he's going to fly into the ground. So he's dangerous.
22 years now. I've been a sim instructor. I hold 4 different type ratings. I have over 10,000 hours, and not once have I ever heard or...
So your resume statement, for who? Do they know that you're on TikTok swearing at people and stereotyping entire groups of people based on the fact that you don't fly into a void that's opening up ahead of you? No, it's not, is it? It's not a response to the pitch data that you had put to you by Angels of Light. It's some random glurf that doesn't understand the difference between global projections and flat Earth models. That's you, your random glurf. Because your resume statement doesn't mean anything to me. You're not on a plane. You've got a CGI backdrop. This could be a costume, and you're swearing. Doesn't seem very pilot-like. They don't tend to be like that. Swearing at random flurfers. What's going on? Who is this guy? Who does he work for, and why is he swearing and stereotyping us? Who are you? That's it. I don't think there's anything more to this video.
or seen or read to account and fly like the Earth is flat. So
What about the pitch data? You only had it put to you 2 days ago. One of our own. You fly straight and level. You told us that in the last video we covered. What do you think that means? Do you think that means you're flying around a curve if you're flying straight and level? No. But you're telling us, contrary to what you have specifically detailed, pilot or otherwise, about flying straight and level, that it doesn't tell you anywhere to fly straight and level? Yeah, it does. You told us that. Where did you get it from? Well, that would be the source that we would also cite to back what you're now contradicting. Nowhere does it say fly straight and level over a flat Earth. Yeah, that's what you have to do when you reference the horizontal plane that your gyro remains fixed to. When you cage it, that's what it's for. So that you can fly straight and level with respect to sea level. That's level. That's flat. You're flying over a flat Earth. We've got the data to prove it now. All right, that was it. It was only a short video. Very short. Which is a bit of a bummer because we're only 20 minutes into the live show.
Well, it started out as non-responsive, non-resequitur. He's not responding to the pitch data and just begging the question, fallacies all over the place.
Was there another one, Mush? It looks like there's two
Yes,
links
sir.
there.
Yes, sir. Check out the last post. There's another pilot talking nonsense.
Oh, yes, that was the one that we were actually going to cover before we did this one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's share this. So this is character health. I hope I'm saying that right. It's on my big screen. It's a little bit small and blurry. But please let this videographer know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. Hey, we've got Mr. Cheswick in the stream, and one of his titles caught my attention when he was like the most suppressed YouTuber, or something to that effect. If you're in my live stream chat, go and check out Mr. Cheswick. He does some really good live music. Does live DJing as well. I've boshed him on several times and been bopping around with the kids. Thank you for those live streams, Mr. Cheswick. I don't know if you appreciate that I'm dancing around while you're DJing or doing your live guitar bits or whatever you're doing. But yeah, you are, like me, very underappreciated. So you may be unaware of Mr. Cheswick's presence in our live stream chat. Let's just put my live stream chat up on screen. Go and subscribe to him. Very much an underappreciated YouTuber. He puts a load of work in, and typically because he's making controversial music about our opponents or any current events, he gets a lot of YouTube channels removed, which is unfortunate. But yeah, he's right there at the bottom of the lists, just like me, and puts a lot of work in. So show some love to Mr. Cheswick. Anyway, back to this guy. Please let him know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. I've just stuck a link to his video. This dude that we're actually covering right now. Sorry to segue on to Mr. Cheswick. But yeah, we'll cover his video, and as is always the case, hopefully if he was to make a response, he'd put a link to my video. Share in the YouTube algorithmic love as we'd all like to receive as YouTubers. All in the same basket. Anyway, did anybody have any preamble for this dude?
I don't have a preamble, Nathan, but I've just jumped in. But I was under the impression that all pilots were taught to treat the ground below them as stationary, non-moving. That's correct, isn't it?
Yes, that pilot that we had on a minute ago told us that yesterday in discussion with Angels of Light.
Right. Okay.
He simultaneously has denied it and said, nowhere does it tell me that I have to fly over a flat Earth. What, fly straight and level with respect to sea level? Yeah, you do. That's how you trained. You got instruments specifically designed to do that.
Is the Earth flat? Not surprisingly, it kind of looks flat. My answer might surprise you, though. Is the Earth flat? No, but it's not exactly round either. It's kind of...
This guy definitely looks like a pilot, right? He's making this while in flight, in cruise, by the looks of things.
bigger in the middle, sort of like me. Don't judge. There's 3 reasons why I think the Earth is not flat.
Hold on, you're a pilot. Why are you telling us about what you think? Yeah? You've got an altimeter telling you how you are with respect to sea level, and you've got gyroscopic action utilizing the principles to give you a level plane to reference, to keep the flight in the air. But now we're going to hear about what you think. Okay, why would we need to think? Why can't you just show us a demonstration of it? Prove it with some of your avionics. Oh, you can't. They all reference a flat plane.
Number 1, if it was flat like a frisbee and spinning, it would go in a straight line. It wouldn't orbit around the sun.
Orbits are derived from flat plane measurements of elevation angles to the celestial items that are detailed mathematically, and then with some out-of-the-box thinking, you can put Earth with a radial value measured with Polaris at its maximum and infer that that flat plane elevation angle is actually the outside edge of a sphere, giving you a radius. Spherical radius, not circular, flat radius like the angle would infer if you use it as an area of equal elevation. Like you would in navigation when you use a sextant. You'll have one under your seat somewhere in case the plane gets lost. Last resort, bubble sextant. And an almanac. And you'll utilise the principles that were originated to give you that radial value, to infer sphericity, to then infer that that spherical ball is moving around the sun in what you now refer to as an orbit. All derived from flat plane elevation angle measurements of the stars. So you're saying it's not flat because orbits wouldn't work. If it wasn't flat, we wouldn't have orbits to describe mathematically, my friend. Must be flat for orbits. Where are you going to derive our values from? What about the asymptotically flat plane that they orbit on? All flat. Did you not know? You'll describe that orbit from the centre of hell on the equatorial plane measured with Polaris. Flat. They're not on a ball when you describe orbits, my friend. You're in hell on a plane with a glorified protractor wrapped around you think is a ball Earth. You're not taking any of these orbital motions with respect to a ball Earth's surface. You're in hell doing it. Maybe look a little bit closer at the diagrammatical examples of orbital motion. Derived from a flat Earth. What a clown. Is this what you thought? You thought wrong, old man. Orbits are derived from flat planes with angles to the stars.
Number two, if it was flat and I've flown all the way around it, I would come off to the edge and plummet to my death. I didn't.
Sorry, if it was flat, you'd reach the edge. What edge? What's he talking about? If it was flat, then you'd fly above it flat, and you do. Pitch data proves it. The height of the plane proves it. It's with respect to sea level. Not sea curve. You say you've flown around it. Show some instrumentation that's demonstrating that you're flying around a sphere then. Instead of that, you're pointing at your ugly mush with the plane behind you, not the instruments in front of you. Show us the instruments and show us which ones show that you're moving around, that's nosing down with respect to a sphere Earth, when you fly into a void that you're explicitly told to fly level with respect to. There is no void opening up ahead of you. There is no curve falling away from you. You're using the horizontal plane of reference that the horizon provides to level the plane. It's your last resort reference out your window. Certainly not falling away from you. And none of your instrumentation will show that. Just your ugly mush and your beliefs. 100 people watching. Please share the show. Thank you very much to all of the regulars who've already smashed that share button to get 100 people here. Always nice to see those triple digits.
Do that. And number three, if it was flat, all the cats would push everything off the edge, and that's probably the most reasonable answer of all.
It's not reasonable at all. What edge? You're talking about a straw man no one's claiming. And people falling off it. This isn't exactly you as a pilot offering some avionic example that proves the point, is it? Your belief in an edge. What edge? Nobody's claiming an edge.
I think the real question is this. The people that live on the moon, do they...
What? Sorry, have you lost your marbles? Do you need taking off active duty? There are no people living on the light in the sky. We measure with respect to its angles off the surface. The moon. No one's travelling to a light in the sky via a sky vacuum. If you think there's people living on the moon, explain me this. In the fairy tale narrative of people travelling to the moon, they have to leave Earth's surface and travel through an orbital motion derived from flat plane angles into an area of volume that the gas below them is not filling. So they can travel into the black area of vacuum to reach the moon, but the gas that they previously were breathing isn't filling the vacuum. That's a straight-up violation of entropic law. The second law of thermodynamics dictates that gas would fill that space also. We'd all be dead if we could travel to the moon for men to be on it living there. There aren't any men on the moon. There's nobody going to the moon. It's just a light in the sky. And it certainly isn't a rock that we can farm soil from, that we travel to through an inference of angular motion derived from flat planes extrapolated out into orbits. So we can infer that one of those orbital trajectories is the moon via a sky vacuum, at a scale given us by Huygens and Kepler. Absolutely not. Learn your own religion. Talking about logic and what's most logical and what the question should be. The question should be, if we're on a globe, why do you have pitch data? Can't have pitch data on a globe.
You think it's flat?
Pitch data proves it. Your pitch data proves it's flat.
Food for thought.
No. Pitch data for facts. If it's good enough for the NTSB, if they're examining why people may or may not have died, it's good enough for me to prove that Earth is reference flat. And in order to maintain lift, you must remain above the horizontal, nose up with respect to a plane. And I can prove it.
Now you know.
Pitch data.
I'm Captain Steve.
Oh, you asking me how we know that it's not flat because you told us what you think? Captain Steve! You should be taken off active duty because he seems like a nutter. I wouldn't trust you behind the wheel of a tricycle.
Fly safe. How do pilots navigate their commercial jet to their destination? Go fish. Well, there are actually highways in the skies, a lot like the highways that you travel on in your car, but, well, a lot different. The highways in the skies are defined by land-based navigation aids that transmit up to the airplane, space-based satellites.
Definitely not. So space would be an area of volume that the gas that you're breathing could fill. So the gas, for instance, oxygen created at ground level, makes its way up and gets thinner where there's less production of it. But in order for that cycle to exist in the first place, the gas must be under containment. Now, your suggestion that there's orbiting satellites around a spherical ball derived from flat plane measurements, now that's a church rhetoric that's turned into a commercialization of bullshit for people to believe the fantasy the church gave them. There is no orbital motion to infer, unless you can suggest that you can stand in the fires of hell and extrapolate the angles that are used in the mathematics of orbits. Nobody's on the equatorial plane in hell to derive these angles of orbital motion for satellites to be in. So there are no satellites in the second law of thermodynamics violation, sky vacuum giving you information about your height above sea level when you negotiate these highways in the sky.
GPS that transmit down.
GPS uses Mercator projection. It's flat, with the grid that is used for all maps, derived from Polaris-based angle measurements, latitude and longitude. The grid is flat. The measurements are flat. The angles you took to measure the stars with were flat. The Earth is flat. The map you use for GPS is flat. The reference system is Cartesian. It is flat. Earth is flat. Earth is navigated flat. You think because you've got the word G for global in there, that alters the Cartesian-based grid reference system that's flat? Oh, absolutely not. Just calling it global doesn't alter anything. It's like putting a picture of a globe up like the last guy did. What about the linear distances that you're giving us in miles or kilometres? They're flat.
And then black box navigation, all this stuff up here that double checks everything that the other two are sending. And then there's the two of us. At every major waypoint, we double check the route to make sure that we're on course. We do so.
That's fascinating and all, but so what? What does this have in terms of relevance to Flat Earth in the title? So far, other than the maps and navigation systems and the principles that we use to develop them all being flat, this doesn't really demonstrate much. I've inserted all of those facts based on what you've said. You said GPS, an acronym for something that infers global nature of these mapping systems. They're not.
So, on an old-fashioned piece of paper chart.
Flat. Didn't look very globe-shaped, did it, dum-dum? Why would it be flat? Or would it be so that you can utilise circles of equal elevation and celestial navigation on those charts? Because that's how they were made. Flat Earth angles. That's why they're flat.
Then we check it against the iPad.
That's also flat. 2D representation of a 3D rendered globe that suddenly has distances that aren't functionally correct. They're extrapolations out based on Haversine from the equatorial plane through curves. No, you've got straight linear distances though, haven't you? You're referencing horizontal on the entire journey.
Back and forth. We're not just up here playing cards, folks. We're actually doing work to get you safely to your destination.
On a flat Earth.
Now you know. I'm Captain Steve.
And you navigate Earth flat.
Fly safe. So you're walking along some sunny day and you look up in the sky and you see this. What is that? Those white streaks up in the sky? Is it smoke coming from the back of the airplane? Is it condensation? Is it chemicals with which I am seeding the planet? Well, it's not smoke and it's not chemicals and it's not exactly condensation either.
Who cares? Why is he covering this in a video? Is the flat Earth? Is the Earth flat, right? What's this got to do with anything? Is it because idiot conspiratard flat earthers talk about this garbage?
It is a little bit. Those are actually small ice particles that are up in the sky, and they're created when my hot engine, 850 degrees Celsius, goes through that super cold air at altitude, minus 50 degrees Fahrenheit. It creates condensation. That's where the name contrails come from. It creates minuscule little particles of ice that float in the air like a cloud behind the airplane. It's not smoke, and it's definitely not
Who cares? What's this got to do with flat Earth?
chemicals that I am seeding the planet with so that the government can control your mind. It's neither one of those.
That's fascinating. What about the other planes that deposit shit through the sky all morning that doesn't go away? What about them? Are you're not one of those pilots, right? You're not depositing that crap that I see every morning. No, you're not one of them. Yours is Contrails, is it? How fascinating. Nothing to do with flat Earth whatsoever. Totally irrelevant. Well, that chewed up another 10 minutes.
Yeah, no, basically
you know,
he presented
I'm
a
Captain
bunch of flat
Steve.
maps, flat charts, and elevation angles, and it all proves Earth is flat. Then he said it was a globe.
He didn't even say it was a globe. On the first clip he might have done, but on the second two clips he's talking about contrails and navigation through waypoints in sky highways. I was going to say cloud highways. But yeah, they're all flat Earth references. Other than literally dropping in GPS, what did he have to suggest in any way, shape or form that he's doing any of that globe-shaped? None of it's done globe-shaped. He brought up an iPad that showed a two-dimensional 3D rendering of a sphere that has curved distances. Distances aren't curved. They're straight and linear.
Well, first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, then you win. So it looks as though he's in the laughing stage.
We already won. This is the weird thing, because at some stage you've got to believe that there's been a deception, that what we thought we functioned and lived on, spherical, was how the world is and was dealt with. Now, in reality, the way we actually deal with Earth, the way it functions and the way it operates, is mapped, navigated, built on, is flat. And it always was. So when you say we won, well, we need to point out the obvious nature of the world and how it's dealt with anyway. Because no amount of rhetoric from the church telling us that an orbital motion derived from angles in hell, utilising the flat Earth angles that we measure on the surface, is actually the world we live on. When it does not function that way, you can extrapolate out the angles you take from the flat surface into that reified globe mathematical paradigm, but we're not. That is not how we deal with the surface. We do actually deal with the surface flat. We do fly over it flat, and it's easy to prove because that is how it functionally operates. So at some stage when you come to Flat Earth and Feast of Nonsense, you're in this realm of idea that there's been a deception that people have changed the way we operate and changed the way we deal with Earth to make people believe that it's a sphere. No, that's actually not true. There's a religion that runs alongside the actual functionality of a flat Earth that we deal with. And when you step outside the religion, you suddenly realise that anybody that's actually dealing with Earth knows already how flat it is. Now, they might also have that parallel, spherical, contradictory religion, and they'll say things like, I've flown around the flat surface I remained level with for the entirety of the duration of my flight. I flew around that ball that I believe in. They can say those things, and they can say, I used the Mercator projection and the flat square Cartesian grid that it has because it's a ball. It's global positioning. That flat chart that I'm holding up, that's really a ball. They can believe it all they like. But the fact of the matter is we all deal with Earth as a flat plane, and it always was. So in some ways that's a positive because there's no massive change for people to have to appreciate. There's the pain of the anti-flat earthers, but they're segregated into a section of society that deals with the extremist globe-believing religious muppets and the flat earth believers. But they're separate from us now. We know there's no longer a need for an argument. What are you going to argue with us about? The fact that it's measured flat. Your globe relies on it. If it wasn't for it being flat measurements for angles, you wouldn't have radial values for your sphere, and you wouldn't have an inference that we're standing in hell. All those things have flat earth prerequisites at the beginning of their genesis. So there's no denying Earth being flat, because you'll deny your globe that you take as read that started that way. No, it didn't. It started with flat Earth measurements also. The fact they just don't tell you that doesn't alter what we now know 10 years into the subject. Earth was always dealt with as a flat plane. We don't have to go out Robotham style or Geron style and fire lasers or look down telescopes. It's already being dealt with flat. It's already measured flat. It's already utilised flat. It's already built on flat. And it always was. So what changes? Don't have to change anything. You just say, oh yeah, the way the world works isn't spherical. It's flat. And anything that you tell me about it being spherical will have its origins in those measurements. So you either know that your origin, your globe belief, comes from a flat Earth, or you don't. And if you do, you can choose to continue to believe that you're on a sphere based on the measurements in hell that aren't measurable on a curved surface. Or you can choose to understand the real nature of how that religion came to pass with the measurements that we give you here. But there's no debate in this subject anymore. And knowing it's flat suddenly leaves us pondering why people are asking about bloody chemtrails and contrails. Well, I don't care about your ideas of there being an edge when I know that you're flying over it flat and I can prove it with the data. Makes no difference to me what you think. Flat earthers have got the misapprehension of when you deal with Earth flat also. I just know you deal with Earth flat and have a religious belief that it isn't the way you deal with it. How contradictory and painful that must be cognitively for you, not me. The debate's over. There wasn't a debate to begin with, we just didn't know that either. It was always flat, it's always going to be. The world doesn't unfold when you find these facts out. It's only your cognition that has to unfold. Your perception has to unfold. The ground was always flat and it will remain exactly as it always was. So will all the measurements and functionality of the ground that we utilise. It will always be and always was flat. So nothing changes in that respect either.
That video was just a poor, pathetic attempt at, I don't know, maybe satire and just condescending, just being condescending towards flat earthers. There's no evidence.
More pain relief.
Heliocentrism is a blip on the radar in humanity. A couple of hundred years of stupid belief in something that isn't real, and it'll go away as quickly as it came to fruition. People will stop believing in the globe as quickly as they were told to believe in it.
I'm just wondering how is this old man not embarrassed at this stage in his career to talk such nonsense? To talk about the frisbee that's spinning and cats pushing everything off the edge. It's just embarrassing.
Yeah.
And Captain Steve, that's embarrassing. Like, come on, who does that?
Somebody trying to remain cool and relevant when they're a bit older. Fine. I've got nothing against him. He's an old dog, heliocentrist. And in his mind, there's nothing to see here. And talking a bit about flat maps and flat charts is enough to prove the globe to him, because it just is, and there's nothing to see here. Like you say, at first they just laugh. Okay? Maybe you'll get angry when we point out that your pitch is above horizontal. Maybe you'll be like the other claim-to-be pilot who's telling us, yeah, of course we pitch down, we just don't notice. What about your always above horizontal pitch data then? Yeah, eventually
It is going to be avoided. It's going to be avoided until it has to be addressed, just like elevation angles.
The thing is, there was a time when I would comprehend how can it go from them laughing, ridiculing, getting angry and fighting with tooth and nail to oppress us, to accepting it like it was always the case, which is claimed to be the natural progression, right? So how'd you go from, we all know it's a sphere, to, yeah, we all knew it was flat all along? How does that actually happen? Well, in the last couple of years, I've realised that that is very easy to happen. That's why there's such a high degree of suspension of disbelief and propaganda for the globe. That's why it's a necessity to indoctrinate kids from birth into this religion. Because without it, it's on a right knife edge. It's really easy to reject when you know how Earth's functionally dealt with. Yeah? I saw it for the first time in my sister when I'm trying to explain to her husband, my brother-in-law, how celestial navigation worked, and she pointed out that she'd trained in it, and it all came flooding back how she'd had several boats and had trained how to do it so she could go out to sea on boats. Without dying, she needs to know how to celestial navigate and had to be certified to be able to do it. So when she's nodding along, she already knows Earth's functionally flat. And in that moment, her attitude changed because she stopped being a glober, because she already knew she functionally utilised Earth as a flat plane and was trained how to utilise it so she didn't die at sea. So in that instance, she's like, well, I already know it's flat. So it was easy for my sister to change her cognition based on what was actually evident in experience with Earth measurements. When you know, you know. You can then realise and stand back from your belief that you had when you know it's functionally operating. Well, it always functionally operated flat. It always will. And anybody who takes half a second to actually glance at the real nature of how Earth is functioning, they'll realise that. So what do you need to stop people looking at how Earth just simply functions and is measured? Well, you need to insert a whole new narrative about ice walls, edges, domes, and all sorts of other crap, stupid nonsense about chemtrails and contrails. Throw that in with a load of 9/11, and Bob's your uncle. You've got a whole conspiratard community of quote-unquote flat earthers, not just talking about how Earth actually functions. Talking about whether or not we'll make it to Antarctica and find the new worlds beyond the edge we don't know if it's there or not. And whether or not we'll find a dome that must be there because we're breathing. Doesn't need validating. Proving how we're not spinning. Proving non-positive. That's what flat earthers spend their time doing. Why? That needed to all be engineered so we don't just stand back and look at how Earth actually functions. Because it's all functionally flat. Can't see the wood for the trees for the bloody laser tests and chemtrails.
Morning, guys.
Hello. But for that reason, hey Chocolate, I think it will be so easy to relinquish. Don't have to argue about whether or not we've been deceived and why would they lie. Well, that's just how Earth is. Why are you a flat Earth? That's how it is. What do you mean that's how it is? That's how it's measured. That's how it's mapped. That's how it's charted. That's how it's built on. That's how it's flown across. What do you want? That's how it is. No! It's a ball! Okay, tell me how it's a ball. No! You must tell me how it's not! No, I'm good, thanks. I know how Earth functions. I don't care if you believe it's a ball. Good for you. You're allowed to believe it's a ball. More power to you. It isn't. It came from flat Earth measurements. I know that because I've got an advanced understanding of where your ball belief came from. And how Earth actually functions is part of that belief that you hold. Measured flat is how you got your ball belief to come to fruition. So if you want to believe it, good for you. I can if you were willing to listen, but you probably won't be. Most people are zealots when it comes to their ball faith that they were trained with from birth. They don't want to know how their origins lie in flat Earth measurements of angles, as on screen now. But I think it would be an easy thing to relinquish. That's how people could turn around and say, I always knew. Yeah, I always knew. I've been on a railway. I always knew. I've been on a plane. I always knew it was flat. Yeah, that's how it functions, though, isn't it? You can say that now. We can show you without any doubt whatsoever that it is. We're not seeking a golden bullet. It was always flat, and there's golden bullets everywhere, always, because that's how Earth is. Nothing but machine gun fire coming out of this camp. That's why my videos are getting the most censorship they've ever had in my entire 10-year history of being on YouTube. Please share the show. Literally, it's machine gun fire of flat earth proof coming out of FED, Nathan Oakley 1980, Brian's Logic, Quantum Eraser. All of these channels are firing out nothing but machine gun fire of flat earth evidence, because that's how Earth is, and that's all we're pointing out now. It's easy. It's getting easier by the day. So we need the most censorship possible.
It's funny when you said just a minute ago how, we always knew it was flat. A lot of people that I've known have been against me for years about just different things. And then when it's come to light, the truth, they're like, we always knew. It's like, no, 10 years ago, you were. So it's just funny because it's true.
Yeah, my sister's like that now. And what frustrates me is she asks me about current affair baby hoaxes. I'm like, I don't even watch this crap. You should be asking me about some political claim to be conspiratard hoax, and I'm like, I don't care. It's just like I've divorced myself from that shite probably 20 years ago when I got her a TV, and she was sick of it, and I don't care. But there's an automatic assumption that because you're a flat earther and you've suddenly appreciated how Earth is dealt with, that you're going to have some opinion on chemtrails. No, that's what they need us to be. They need us to be idiots talking about stupid stuff like chemtrails. Because then we're not talking about just the way Earth functions, with no argument and no need to call us stupid. When I point out pitch data and how it's above a horizontal plane of reference, or their height above sea level, there's no arguing with me or calling me a nutter, an idiot that thinks 9/11 was an inside job. You can't call me any of those things if I just point out how Earth's measured. I'm not a conspiratard. So I'm the most...
Once a gentleman...
Go on.
Once a gentleman asked me, when he heard I was a flat earther, he asked me if I was into conspiracies. And what I said to him was, I listen to what people have to say and I take it into consideration. And then the guy went silent because what he expected me to say was, oh yeah, here's this conspiracy, here's that conspiracy. What he didn't expect me to do is give a reasonable response and not cancelling people because you don't like what they have to say before you even know what they have to say.
Yeah, we're a different breed here. That's the bottom line, isn't it? We used to be talking about being on the cutting edge. Well, yeah, we sharpened it so far that we've now cut ourselves loose of the rest of the community completely. So we're having to essentially build a separate community. And we can't call it Flat Earth, even though that is more explicitly and specifically what we cover here directly. And the majority of the people with that label, because of the machine that's put in place to dilute the nonsense that needs to be argued about, to avoid the general masses seeing how Earth is actually just functionally flat anyway. There's no real argument about it. So you need to create one, a false one. So every time we say, well, how are these arguments being positioned with edges, like the guy just said, oh, we're not on a flat Earth, we don't fall off an edge. What, like the edge that you think is your sphere edge derived from flat plane measurements parallel with eye level? Because you think there's an edge boats fall over, called Earth Curve. We debunked it in 2020. It uses flat Earth measurements also, shocking. But you've got an edge. So why is there this false dichotomy? Well, it's obviously been created so that there's a nonsensical argument back and forth between the garbage nonsense assertion of being on a globe derived from flat Earth measurements and flat Earthers claiming that we've got an edge or an ice wall or a dome. We're not part of that anymore, are we? We despise it. Most of what flat Earth, in quotes, the populace, the general public's perception of what flat Earth is, we stand in vehement opposition to all of it. Ice walls, ether, edges, domes, all of it. It's all there to dilute the fact that Earth is just flat. It's just flat. It's just how it is. Nothing to it, really. Well, give me an example. Just do anything functional on Earth, and you'll do it flat.
Yeah, if you ask your typical globe believer how the globe is measured, they have no idea. And then even if they look into it, they're going to reify a horizon into a geometric location, or they're going to use elevation angles. So they're screwed either way.
Yeah. The final snip was when we put in the globe believers in debate between a rock and a hard place. Deny your fundamental basis of your globe faith. That's the origin measurements of a flat plane, or accept the flat plane measurements your globe's based on. You can't do both. You can't deny the globe. You can't deny the flat measurements, because if you do, you deny the base premise that builds the globe. So that's it. You either accept that Earth is measured flat, or you deny that the globe exists, because you deny the measurements it's based on.
Yeah, that's beautiful, that one. When you get in there, they're definitely between a rock and a flat place there. They just, you can hear them stuttering, they stammering when they realise they have to make a choice about that now. It's so funny.
Well, that's where the ad homs come out and the swearing, just to end the conversation very quickly.
Yeah, their choices are to
Yeah.
deny the globe or accept flat Earth.
And they spit the dummy out and cry because they don't want to do either. It's brilliant.
But that's creating an artificial debate where one doesn't exist. What that is, in essence is saying is, it doesn't matter which side of the fence you fall on, Earth's still going to be measured flat. So, you know, you can feel free to retain your globe faith, but that's all it is. It's a belief. And it's interesting to me that the majority of people that talk on the subject of globe refer to it as such. It's like when you were trained in this subject from birth, you were also trained that it was a belief, for whatever reason. Fail-safe, probably. Oh, well, you always knew it was a belief. Yeah, of course it's a religion. Yeah. We taught you it came from Copernicus, and why wouldn't you think it would come from the church? We told you. It's called the Copernican model. Why wouldn't you know? Who do you think Copernicus is? They've got plausible deniability when and if. It's just a matter of time as far as I'm concerned. It might not happen in my lifetime, and I don't care if it doesn't. I know it's flat, and because of that easy to recognise fact, in terms of how it's functionally utilised, it's not going to suddenly alter. We're not going to suddenly start measuring it a different way tomorrow. So that will always be the case. It doesn't matter if I'm here, it doesn't matter if any flat Earths, it doesn't matter if this resurgent happens. 100 years from now, people will still measure Earth flat. It'll still be functioning the same way. So it's never going to survive. The globe lie was never designed to survive. It cannot survive. As a reification, it's just a lie. It's not true. You aren't standing on a globe. Ergo, it will not and cannot survive. Doesn't matter what we do. It is inevitable. So all of you going, oh, flat Earth will go from 0 to 100 in overnight. No, because what you perceived to be flat Earth was the bullshit that you liked delving into as a conspiratard. That will also die on its arse. But the reality of Earth and how it is and how it's functioned, it just is flat. And in a way, it matters not what we describe it as we debate amongst ourselves within a controlled system, within the grand matrix that we all exist in, with our taxes and our education system. Matters not. They're just forms of control. The globe's no different. But how Earth functions and how it is will stay the same. It always was flat. So if you're in a time period where the people around you tell you otherwise, it doesn't matter. It still is flat. People live and die. Rhetorics come and go. Religious control structures change all the time. The fact that we're currently under one that says we're on a globe, well, 200 years from now, it'll be something else that's controlling people. Might not be a globe. I highly doubt it, in fact. Bloody ludicrous, based on how we actually deal with Earth. So I'd give it 50 years. Tops. Globe will be dead. No one will believe in it in 50 years. They'll go, yeah, we already knew.
And we always knew.
The irony of it. Sorry, go on, mate.
Sorry, go ahead. Go.
Yeah, the irony of it, yes, when we said the other day, like we were saying we're coming out on the front foot, 2024, the Earth's measured flat. But like we said, when you think about it, it was measured flat 2,000 years ago by Eratosthenes, the Greek geezer, measuring angles on the surface of Earth. And that's their globe proof, apparently. The irony.
Yeah. I mean, whoever did it obviously thought that if we can just shove it back in the time period far enough, no one will notice. It's like, nah, people are inquisitive. They want to justify their globe belief. So I've got it on screen now. Alexandria and Cyan, the shadow and stick off a flat plane. All right, people just looked into it and now reference it. And for, a couple of years, we were like, oh, how do we get around this elevation angle that's not an angle off a curved surface? They won't give them an angle. It's measured flat. We just didn't know it. But it was right there in front of us the whole time and in front of the globe believers using it. Just a matter of time. That's what I'm saying. It's inevitable, isn't it? If you are just factually measuring Earth flat, it's just a matter of time before you realise that the bit that you were told where it isn't flat doesn't work. Not like in the Matrix movie where there's a bazillion people all plugged in to a system where they're artificially programmed to believing they're going to the office each day. We are actually dealing with Earth on a daily basis. We're not dealing with an artificial reality presented to us. We're just told about the verbal, artificial, mathematical paradigm of globe. And based on that, we create the rest ourselves in our own mind. But the world we're living in, it's like in the Matrix. They have to come out of the pod, slide down the chute, realise they've got atrophy, have all their muscles built up, realise their eyes have never worked. It's not like that here. Nothing changes when you realise that the whole paradigm, the whole existence of this globe world only exists in your mind. Doesn't exist anywhere else. Not in some virtual sim that you're standing on a globe. You're not. You never were. Go on. Go on. You ruined the end of my ramble just to leave Sony silence. Who was that? Go ahead.
That was Goat. I guess he's having mic issues.
Okay, fair enough. Anyway, yeah, nothing's going to change. The world hasn't unfolded. Not going to suddenly realise that what you were measuring spherical is going to have a change made in terms of the instrumentation, the tools that you use, the way it's methodologically, if that's the right word, utilised to get around and stuff. Go on, Goat. Second time you've done it. Goat, go ahead. For the love of God.
Mic check.
Yes, we can hear you.
Check. Hello.
Yeah, we hear you.
Oh, he can't hear us, I guess.
Sorry, Nathan. I'm in Eccleshall, mate. It's terrible signal around here.
Oh, well, it's really good to know at the end of 2 points I was trying to make. Thank you so much. Right, I'm going to wrap out on that note. Okay, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, though, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So, another massive thank you to all of you. Hit me up on PayPal, smash the super chat, join as a member, all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.